Not content with your content? You've come to the right place. The Discontent Show with Joe Kuzma. Every brand starts with a story. Here's how you can grow your business by sharing it. Now, with today's topic, the host of The Discontent Show, Joe Kuzma.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Discontent Show. My name is Joe Kuzma, and I hope everyone out there is safe and healthy and doing as best you can in these uncertain and ever-changing times as some parts of our routine become the new normal. Who knows how long we may be locked up in isolation or self-quarantine here, but hopefully for those of you, I hope that everyone's doing okay out there. Those of you may be finding that you have a little bit more time on your hands than you used to, whether that would afford you now to be able to start that side hustle that you've always been looking to do, or one that you kind of put on the back burner, or whatever be the case. I'm starting to think that this may be a retread of some ideas that I covered when it came to New Year's resolutions. And if you had some and you'd forgotten about them, we are now in the month of April, and 4 months in, it's not a bad time to go back and take a look at that checklist, whether it be auditing your website or starting some social media pages, starting up a podcast, anything that could be relevant like that to your content marketing. But I have some other tips and tricks and some ideas too that are more relevant to this COVID-19 or coronavirus pandemic that you may have not given any consideration to when it comes to your content marketing. So I'm going to some of this may be a review from the last episode, and some of it may be reviews from many episodes, but I think it's a good refresher to not only cover for all of my listeners, but myself as well, just in case I missed some bases here, some talking points. Now, I do hope, I know some of this is a major change to some folks. Maybe you don't work remotely, or not used to working from home, or things of that nature. I've always been a big advocate of, you could carry around a smartphone, tablet, Chromebook, laptop, and be able to do this work in, easily wherever you may have time. Now that, we can't go out to eat or spend time with, some friends and family, maybe you're not making that commute to work. Hopefully this has afforded you some extra time in which you can take a look at your content marketing efforts and, just sharpen up what you need to sharpen up. Now, the big one for me has been websites and a lot of things that have been coming down the pike for me personally in regard to this whole pandemic is just the informing of people. And while social media is great and should be utilized as an extra tool, please, please, please do not neglect your website. No matter what it takes, I think we need to make sure that people are informed and people should be trained. Sometimes I say like trained SEALs, and I don't mean that like a derogatory type of way. I mean, like, if somebody's looking for you, where do they go? They may ask whatever smart assistant that's on their phone, or if they have the Echo Dot or something like that. But they might just go to Google. And when they go to Google, you may need to make sure some things are up to date. At the very least, some people may not expect those things to be up to date on Google, and they're going to go to your website, and you own and control your website. You don't own and control Google. You don't own and control Facebook. Those platforms can change like the wind changes directions, the breeze blows stronger, you know what I mean? But your website, you do have, you try and control what you can only control what you have control of. Take control of what you can take control of, and don't worry about the other things, you know what I mean? I know some people worry, and it's like, oh, I post on Facebook and this thing disappears into thin air. Well, you know what? You can't worry about things you can't control. Your website is definitely something that you can be prepared for, and make sure that you inform any of your clients or customers, or even if you're just getting started, make sure everything's kind of structured properly. And, the usual things you can audit with the website, it's time, spring cleaning usually means, hey, look and see if you're going to do a new logo. Do you like where this thing's placed? Is there any information that's out of date on your website? Has your blog not been updated? I'm guilty of this, by the way. I'm terrible at writing blogs, particularly on content marketing, because, the writing marketing can be boring. It's a lot easier for me to inform and talk to you about these things, to be completely honest. And these are some things that I'm also working on myself. Nobody's perfect. I understand everyone's running around sometimes with their heads cut off, kids at home, things of that nature. And these are trying in different times, but do not neglect your marketing efforts. And the easiest ones start with your website. And I don't even mean to go through every page and read every little thing. If you happen to still be in operation and your hours have changed due to whatever, could be government mandates, for example, or just being responsible to yourself, your customers, and your employees and or staff, these are things that need to be made of note on your website, whether that's a new blog or news or update post that you put there, or you physically change it because you have the information listed somewhere else on your site. These are some things that are, I think it's the most important thing is that you have to make people aware as to whether or not you're still open and when and where they can go in order to get your goods or services. For example, too, is your actual store, if you have a storefront or retail business, are your doors open? Are you allowing people in? Are you delivering things curbside or to a parking lot, or, DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub, any of those things too, if you happen to work in the food industry? These are all things that people, I think, need to be made aware of. And it is changing times. And I think this is some stuff where initially, immediately some of the marketing stuff and getting the message out may have not been everyone's first priority. It was, we got to change and adapt our processes to fit the needs of this changing world. And there's nothing wrong with that, but now we need to rewind and make sure that everyone knows how you've adapted or changed. It's as simple as letting people know, hey, our cleaning processes have been something like this. I may have mentioned this even on the last episode, and some could be a rehash, that, it's not bad to go back and listen to that one and know how you have to sympathize, be empathetic, don't make any type of classless or crude jokes, kind of stay with the trends, and just inform and more or less inform people of what's going on, because things may be changing for you too. It's constantly changing. You may have initially stayed fully open, and now maybe you're only available for certain hours during certain periods of time. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You have to do what's best for you, what's best for your business. But at the same time, in order to keep business rolling, if you're fortunate enough to be able to do so, we have to be able to inform people. And your website is the place that most people, they're going to do the Google search, they're going to go. And Google, if things are set up properly with your website, a lot of times Google is just going to pull that information to and update it. But you need to make sure, if you have the means to be able to do that, Google Maps, a lot of times you claim your business, you're able to make edits or suggestions. If you can go in there and do that too, that's where a lot of people are going for that stuff. Now, there's some other areas too, and it all depends on what type of industry you're in. Like if it's an Apple Maps type deal, for example, some of their information is pulled from Yelp, or it'll show you. So just do a search for somebody else and it'll tell you where the information's pulled, like maybe a competitor or someone that's in a nearby location to yours. Of course, if you're an online only type entity, your website's going to be the biggest thing, and maybe you don't have a physical location to worry about hours and things of that nature, but you're still going to want to let people know that it's, I don't want to say business as usual, because nothing is usual about what's going on right now, but you need to let them know that whether you're available or not. Obviously, social media is a big one too. Facebook will make your eyes glaze over sometimes with the amount of information it asks of you. If you can go in there, if you go and update some of your hours and things of that nature as best you can, because one thing you do have to remember too is while you're doing these type of coronavirus pandemic changes, wholesale changes to whatever it may be, Facebook or Google Maps or on your website, eventually, I would expect these things subside and everything returns back to kind of the way it was before we were making all of these drastic changes. So you also want to kind of make note somewhere of where you're making these changes and how, so you can go back and undo them or update them to reflect however things are going to go when we go back to the, the actual normal instead of the new normal, hopefully. But there's some other things you can do too. You could go ahead and take a look, whether it's your website, whether it's Facebook or Twitter. You have cover images, you may have like banners or photos or anything like that on your website. Anything that's like out of date. Maybe it shows somebody that no longer works for you, or some type of product you no longer offer, or something looks dated or dingy. If you have the ability to, I would go in and start to update some of those things. It's things that you could freshen up, particularly if you find yourself with a little bit of extra free time. This is the best time as ever to do some of these things. So why not go in and do it? The other thing I was saying too, I want to kind of backtrack here too. When you're updating people about like hours and things you're doing when it comes to this pandemic, if you do it with a blog post, that's great. But what's going to end up happening is are you making multiple blog posts for something like this? You may need to create an entirely new page just for any type of coronavirus updates and then link to those other things, or dump everything on there. You don't want to make it too overwhelming. However, if you do something like that and it's like reading a novel, you kind of want to make this something like an outline, or link to the other stuff, so it's kind of like chapters in a book, particularly for those of you who do like the ebook route. Maybe you read things on Kindle or a similar type of service. You'll understand what I mean by that, even if you aren't the biggest expert at website type stuff. This isn't necessarily something that's maybe too difficult to do, but it's something that I'm doing a lot for clients who may not have the time. And believe it or not, some industries are actually looking to hire more people. They're crazier. Their business is getting a little more overwhelmed, all because of the way things are shifting in the world right now. So that's something to keep in mind. If you have any kind of announcements, if you make multiple announcements, you don't necessarily want to go back and stack everything all together and make it just too cumbersome and too overwhelming for people to see. But by all means, make sure that stuff's on your website. And then the great thing is that if you have it on your website, you could always take that link, post it on social media, Facebook, Twitter, etc., and it creates that full circle that we like to have. All of those pillars, right? The foundations with the content marketing, everything should come full circle and lead back, crisscross back to one another. Definitely all linked together. So this just creates a bigger circle for you. It amplifies your message, and it helps others. Even if they're not looking for this information, maybe the information will find them, and that's very important in this time, in like these trying times. Obviously, if you haven't dipped your toe into the social media pool, this may be a time to create some pages too, because some people, again, the trained seals, maybe they just use the Facebook app, and then they start to search for you on Facebook, and you don't exist in that on that platform. They're not going to find you. And a Facebook search bar is very important. Another big one too is YouTube. If you have anything that's videos, if you've ever done ads or TV commercials, how-tos, you may want to go back on there and do some spring cleaning too. YouTube has made some major changes. Facebook is in the middle of unveiling an entirely new layout, of which I'm going to have to get used to it. I sound like the old guy, get off my lawn, and I don't want things to change. Things will change. So I'll have to get used to it, but you have to be aware too that Facebook is making those type of changes. You're going to have to look and make sure that things are updated and there aren't any holes on your page. I went right there from YouTube, but YouTube has been in the middle of doing this for most of this year, most of 2020 already. So make sure you go in there. You're going to want to make sure you have things like a description, make sure you have maybe some keywords or tags and things of that nature all set up, and maybe even go back, and if you do have videos posted, how can you make those, how can you clean those up a little bit and maybe refine them a little better so maybe they get found by people looking in search. Maybe put some keywords or better descriptions in there as well. So, and by all means, the most important thing is letting people know how you're adapting or changing during this pandemic. Of course, I mentioned the things you could do on your website, the things you could do on social media, but maybe you adapt and change by starting something entirely new. Maybe you end up doing a podcast, and maybe you end up doing some other type of thing. Maybe you do the Great American Novel type of deal. There's so many different things that you can do. You could even work on, flyers, whether they be digital or you eventually print them, the handout. I know that's not ideal right now, but it's something that you could always work on. It's those type of projects that, sometimes take a back seat to more important things. And if you find yourself with a little bit of extra time, or you're able to refocus, or even if you have some other folks that are helping with you or employees and some of their job roles are probably going to change, maybe this is something else that they could either help you with, or they could take on, you could delegate some other responsibilities you have to them in order to free up the time to do these things for yourself. So, and by all means, if you're doing this all remote too, I hope it's working out for you. I know there's concerns about, this, that, or the other thing with doing things like through a Skype or Zoom or anything like that. But I do hope it works out for you. If you hadn't considered doing it that way, I encourage you. The face-to-face type thing is, it changes. It humanizes a lot of things versus just an email, text, chat message, or even perhaps a phone call. A phone call is the next level, but, some of us out there could use some of the human interaction. By all means, do the same for your clients and customers. That only helps you build some of your rapport going forward. So I hope a little bit of this spring cleaning task list has helped you out. If you have any questions for me, or you need some help from someone like myself, don't hesitate to reach out to me on my website at joekuzma.com. Until next time, and I sincerely mean it as I always do, everyone out there, be safe, be good, and I'll catch you later. Hi folks, this is Joe Kuzma. No, don't worry, you're not hearing things twice. I'm just here to say, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for listening to today's show and being a follower and subscriber of the Discontent Podcast. And I want to remind you that if you're interested in more information about all the various things it is that I do, whether it be about this show, content marketing, or you want to ask a question, you may visit me at joekuzma.com. That's JOEKUZMA.com. Or you can follow me as well on Facebook. Make sure you get the page and not the personal profile. Sorry, it's only for friends and family. Also on Twitter at Joe_Kuzma, LinkedIn or Instagram. Also, don't forget, if you haven't already, subscribe, whether that be on iTunes, YouTube, or your favorite podcast provider, so you don't miss out on any of the great episodes that we have. Once again, thank you again for your support, and I look forward, as always, to speaking and interacting with each of you again soon.